Welcome back to Stinging Back, the podcast where we unravel the myths, expose the misconduct, and confront the uncomfortable truths about online sting operations. I'm M.
And I'm A. Today's episode is titled RICO, the Implausible Scenario.
We're diving into a disturbing reality. The stories crafted by law enforcement and vigilante groups in their stings are less about protecting children and more about spinning fantasies. Fantasies that look at a lot less like real life and a lot more like scripted, exaggerated plots of pornographic films.
In this episode, D is taking the lead, breaking down how these scenarios are carefully designed not to reflect reality, but to entrap and sensationalize. We'll also be unpacking anchor bias, how once the public and juries are presented with a narrative framed as predator versus child, every detail afterwards gets twisted to fit the anchor, no matter how implausible the scenario really is.
So please stick around, check that like button, share us, because today we're pulling back the curtain on the manufactured fantasies that drive these operations and showing why the truth is far more complicated than the headlines.
And now we have D with his presentation on RICO. This is part 2. A couple of weeks ago, we did part 1. So if you have not listened to that one yet, go back and listen to that one first and then come back and listen to this one. Welcome, D.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good. It's good to have you back on. Good to have you every time. We love having you on here.
Good deal. But yeah, no, I wanted to kind of circle the wagon on RICO. It was a pretty long episode, and I'm a meat and potatoes guy. I want to know why it's RICO. I want to know why it's fraud. I'm excited to tell you. I titled this RICO, the Implausible Scenario. That's what it is. The porn scenario is used. Taboo family role play, caught in the act, power dynamics, failure and exhibitionist repairman household, right? So these are all role plays that we commonly see in certain films that would lead us to believe that someone was putting on an act.
Right. These are fantasies that are created for sexual purposes and for pleasure viewing, for sexual fantasies, right? And this is basically what you're saying. These are the same scenarios we're seeing used in these online sting operations that are supposed to be about protecting children, but that's not happening at all.
No, when we take a closer look at these cases, they look like they're almost on purpose not winnable via the prosecutor. So the reason why that is because we're getting very close to that line. And perhaps it's because they're posting this stuff on adult websites and they don't want to be booted. But we're getting very, very close to the line of, is this somebody role playing, or is this somebody trying to act out a kink, or is this an actual minor, right? Fantasy versus desire. Is fantasy your desire? Well, if someone is also their desire when we watch a horror flick and feel a level of adrenaline, do we wish to actually live in that scenario in real life? No. I doubt anyone would like to star in a real life Walking Dead. When we play GTA or Call of Duty, do we actually want to live out our desire to rob a gas station and carry M16 to the desert? No. I doubt anybody wants to do that. Then why do we treat this the same way? So here we have a picture, and this is kind of a jokey joke, but it makes my point. When your stepsister gets stuck in the dryer. I think we're all familiar with this one, shamelessly. We can obviously tell that she's not stuck. No one put super glue in the washing machine, and that's not stepsis. These are two people acting out a role play. It's a fantasy, not a desire, right? So when we talk about anchor point bias, role plays, and all that type of thing that play into these arrests, this is what we're thinking about. This is a totally created fantasy that has been orchestrated by law enforcement, and they continue to do it because it's a great PR stunt. It's a great way to get federal grants, but ultimately it's fraud.
Well, and we know they get the ideas for the sting operation scenarios from porn scenarios like that, like you were just talking about the stepsister stuck in the washer or in the dryer. Um, there's a name for this where it's supposed to be someone related to you or kind of related to you. I believe it's called incest porn, and this is where they use also instinct operations where they pretend to be the older sister with the younger sister who's looking for a man to come join them in a threesome. I mean, if that were real, it's basically, someone putting themselves out there announcing to strangers that she's sexually abusing her minor sister and she's looking for a man to come help her, do that. And
Right.
that's just who would do that. It's meant to be a fantasy scenario. Let's pretend like I'm the older sister and like I have a 14-year-old minor sister, and we want you, Mr. Stranger, to come over and sexually explore with us. Or the mother with the minor children, right? Same thing. Um, that's another incest porn scenario that these police officers have been using in these online sting operations, calling it saving and protecting children. It's not saving and protecting children. It's just basically acting out their own sexual fantasies about this.
Right. And what I have found to be absolutely diabolic, because next episode we're going to actually be calling out some of these groups that do this, but you can tell they're actually having fun with this. They're actually enjoying it. They're getting off to it.
Oh, I have no doubt that's what's going on, and and at the same time, they get to call it work, and they
Yeah.
get paid for it, and they get grant money for it, and it's very easy for them to get away with it, and that's why they keep doing it. And the public and our legal system keeps supporting that and defending that and enabling that.
Well,
Right.
the viewer's anchor bias is that they're saving children. So they're high fiving and congratulating them on great work done.
Yeah, and millions of tax dollars have been wasted on that, and like you said before, Dee, it's fraud. There's nothing real about this, about saving and protecting children. Zero children are protected from playing out porn scenarios for their own, thrills. But
No, it's silly because I've seen the comments where someone was arguing, well, even if, they didn't believe it, if somebody even has that fantasy, they deserve to go to jail. Well, let me go ahead and scrub your internet browser and see where you've been going to. I mean, that's not realistic. I
well,
mean, go ahead.
that was like that prosecutor that we recently saw that video of, where yeah, that's exactly what he said. If anybody who has fantasies about minors, those types of fantasies, then that means they're predisposed. They are a danger to children. So something has to be done, right? They need to be stopped. But it blew my mind to watch that and listen to him make that argument when it's very clear that those police officers were the ones who created wild fantasies about minors being desperate for sex with random strangers. And that particular prosecutor who was making these points was arguing about how the 13-year-old child had requested watermelon lube. She didn't want strawberry lube. She knew she didn't like strawberry because apparently she had tried strawberry before and did not like it, but because she requested watermelon lube, and she said that was because the man was going to bring watermelon lube for her, that was him enticing her and grooming her because he gave into their fantasy about a 13-year-old girl wanting watermelon lube. That just blew my mind. And there were 5 adults, 3 judges, and there were 2 lawyers there, and they were treating this as if this was just normal, like a real 13-year-old girl would ever be requesting watermelon lube from a random stranger online. That she was so eager, to have come over and do dirty things with her. It's insane. It blows my mind how people are treating this like this is just normal and this could have been a real child. Never. 0% that would have ever been a real child doing that. It's ridiculous.
So let's talk about the basics. Role play is the act of assuming and acting out a particular role or character in a simulated situation, often for entertainment, training, or exploration of identity, behavior, and fantasy. Fantasy, a scenario, story, or idea that is not real, and often impossible, existing only in the imagination. For example, magical world, mythical creatures, or superhuman ability. Now, anchor bias is a cognitive bias where people rely too heavily on the first piece of information. As an example, you walk in to buy a new jacket at the jacket store and you look at the tag for the one that you like and it says it's $250, but it's discounted for clearance to $150. Now that's your anchor bias. It's been brought down to $150 from that $250, so it's a great deal. But it's not actually even worth the $150 because retail price on that jacket would have been $120. So you're stuck with that anchor bias when you're making decisions. Even if the anchor is arbitrary or irrelevant, it disproportionately influences judgments and estimates. When we find a scenario that doesn't reflect reality or keep us in a level of plausible disbelief, we become skeptical, and that's not wishful thinking, it's simple instinct.
So it seems like these are done somewhat like a window shopper, you know. You see a price tag that's, you know, kind of high, but then you see the discount rate, and all of a sudden that looks a lot better, right? So my question to the audience is, why is this being treated as if it's marketing? Why are they using marketing tactics and calling it a bait switch? And frankly, if you're looking for men who are actually trying to exploit children, why are we doing a bait switch when there are so many actual real cases out there? Why are we creating bait and switches? Why is that even necessary? Why do you need to trick somebody into committing a crime? I don't understand that.
So the anchor bias with these online sting operations is that they have sold to the public and to our legal system the idea that these online sting operations are saving and protecting children from online predators that would have eventually found, a child online and sexually exploited that minor online. But in reality, in these online sting operations, they're using mythical creatures that do not exist. They will create a mythical creature, such as a 13-year-old girl who's home alone, lonely, feels neglected, and out of everything in the world that she could do, all she wanted to do was go online onto an adult dating or hookup or even a sex website and find an adult random stranger to engage him in sexual conversation and to invite him to come over. But first she wanted to make sure that he knew that she was only 13, and then she acted like she was very sexually turned on by announcing to the stranger that I'm only 13 and I need you to be okay with that. And then she wants him to bring condoms and lube, and I'm hungry, so bring pizza too. And I'm going to go ahead and shower now and get ready for you. Let me know how long before you're here. That's a mythical creature. No 13-year-old ever has ever done that or would ever do that. And the anchor bias is that they are selling this as if this could have been a real 13-year-old child, when the reality of it is there's like 0% chance that that would have ever been a real child behaving that way. That's not
Well,
how
and
real cases happen.
more of the anchor bias is that originally the ad they saw said that they were of age.
Right.
So that's what's always stuck there. There's an adult ad saying that they're of age, so they're stuck on this. Hey, this is an adult that I can interact with.
Right, and that's a really good point, Em, because on the other side, from the men's perspective, the anchor bias is that they are on here seeking a consenting adult, a like-minded consenting adult to meet, to engage in these online fantasy sexual conversations with, to possibly meet up for a casual sexual hookup. In their heads, they have already imagined an adult woman who's going to be participating in this with them, or an adult man if it is a gay man. That's what's in their minds. So they're ready to engage in this conversation, to meet up this person if they're ready, if this person's willing to do that. And then comes law enforcement or these vigilantes and they want to force into the heads of these men the idea of doing this with a 13 or a 14-year-old in place of with an adult. So really, and then they confess, they admit that you were supposed to believe this was a real 13 or 14-year-old. So they're admitting that they are trying to create child exploitation because they are injecting minors into adult sexual situations where there would realistically never be a real minor injecting themselves into those adult sexual situations. Those minors, first of all, they're going to stay away from that, or if they're just, on there by mistake, not knowing what they're doing, and somebody starts talking sexually to them, those minors, the real minors, are going to walk away from that. They're the ones that are going to walk away, block you, and so forth. They're not going to say, please tell me more about what you're going to do to me and let me go shower so that I can be ready for when you get here, and here's my address. Please come over right away. That's a mythical creature. That's not a real minor. So it's BS when they're claiming that this would be a real minor. So moving on, speaking of psychological manipulation, which, these law enforcement officers and vigilantes have also assigned, to their mythical creature, this great skill of being able to psychologically manipulate fully grown adults, right? So they, like I said, it's a mythical creature. That does not exist. They have the appetite, the sexual appetite of an adult man. They have the sexual confidence of an adult man. They have, the sexual assertiveness of an adult man, the sexual maturity. And on top of that, they can psychologically manipulate a random adult male stranger online. That's not a real minor, that's a mythical creature. So here we see, as we can see, this individual here in this photo, that's RuPaul. No, sorry, that is not RuPaul. Do not air that. This individual here in this photo, as we can see, this individual represented themselves as a 40-year-old who is in a complicated relationship and is sexually open-minded. She smokes occasionally and drinks socially. So why would the police use this as an underage sting while intentionally making it so mature? You're mature for your age. No, you're too mature for that age. This is a clear example of police attempting to create anchoring bias, creating a very strong first impression that this person is an adult and that anything else is a fantasy.
This is just a really good point of the anchor bias being made. So we see Amanda, she's 40, she drinks, she smokes, she's verified on this account.
She likes cash.
Yeah, she likes cash. But this is actually, I think this is a dating platform on this one. And I don't even know why you would include that, because this is actually I believe going to be a female officer who did this pose, but I don't understand why you would work so hard to make this person seem so old and mature just to do what they call is a bait and switch. It's not much of a bait and switch. This is an anchor bias being made. And
No,
that's the common core issue we're having here in these cases.
yeah, no man would look at this ad and think, oh, this has to be a minor. I am going to reach out to her because look at her. She looks like a minor. Minors tend to say that they're 40 years old, and they tend to say that they smoke and drink socially. Nothing about this ad says anything that, if you reach out to this person, they're going to play a game with you of pretending to be a minor.
Right.
Nobody. So anybody that responds to this ad, in their head, they're going to be thinking, this is an adult woman. She seems like someone that likes to have money spent on her. She kind of, showed that in the picture. She's looking for a good time. She probably wants to be, even though she's 40 years old, she probably wants to be treated like she's a sugar baby. That's what that comes across as. That does not come across as this person is actually a minor who pretending to be 40 years old. A real minor would pretend to be 18 or 20, not 40.
Right. And you just put yourself in the shoes of the man looking at this. Is okay, we got money. This is a person who thinks of themselves as a sugar baby, and she's 40 and she drinks occasionally.
Yeah, she's attractive.
But she told me she's 13. That doesn't make sense. Oh, I
Well,
get.
and another scenario that we need to remind people of also is that switch doesn't come until they've already established everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about hooking up. They're getting personal. They're getting to know each other. And when it goes, okay, let's do this. Oh, I've got to be honest. I'm only 13. So days, hours. It could be quick, but not usually. Usually this lasts for 2 3 days, a week.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes months. It could be days. It could be weeks. It could be months.
Can you imagine how much of a cretin you have to be to do this for months, just to do a bait switch?
Yeah, and if you read the conversations and take out that they claim to be underage at whatever point, nobody would can read that conversation and say, "Oh yes, this totally sounds like a minor." Like if you were to take that conversation, remove the part where they claim to be 13, where they changed it to be 13, and just have somebody read the conversation and ask them, "How old do you think this woman is based on her behavior here?" Nobody would say, "Oh yes, that's totally a 13-year-old." That they would say, "Yeah, that's obviously a sexually mature person, and they must have some kind of learning disorder because they don't know how to text, or they use these weird words or whatever." That's what that comes across as. That does not come across. They do not present themselves at all as an actual minor, even though they say they did. Just because you misspell some words does not mean that you came across like a minor. You came across as an adult who was acting like you were turned on by pretending to be a minor. Is what they come across as.
And then when you throw the doubt in, oh, that's really, I wasn't expecting that. You could be too young. Then they coerce back with, well, gee, we got so far. I thought I could trust you, and you're not brave enough to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then they'll use that as the guy acknowledging that he knew this was a minor. Because if you play along with their role play and say, "Oh, gee, that's too young. Oh no, like I could get in trouble for that. Oh, you must be the cops." They use that to say that the guys had a guilty mind because they were thinking about sex with a minor. Just because you play into the fantasy scenario that these people presented does not mean that they knew. There's no way they could know this was a minor. There's no way they could know who this was at all. Just like there's no way on the other end they cannot know who the man they're talking to truly is. They themselves could be talking to a minor who's presenting themselves as an adult. How do they know they're not talking to a minor? Because according to them, there are minors in these places, and if they truly believe that, then they wouldn't be going around, pushing sexual conversations on anybody, because they themselves could be talking to a minor who's presenting themselves as an adult, which is more realistic of, what truly happens in cases involving real minors. A real minor is not going to announce to strangers that they are that they are underage, and they're certainly not going to act like they're sexually turned on by announcing to a stranger that they are underage.
Well,
And
there's so many elements to these, and that's one of the reasons we're here. There's so many elements to these that juries don't hear, that prosecutors, judges, and a lot of law enforcement just turn a blind eye to. It's if and we keep saying, you know what? If the public saw all of this the way it is broken down, it would raise a lot of doubt. They wouldn't get the support that they get currently because they'd see the deceitfulness, the coercion, the manipulation, the games that they play. So no wonder these guys are confused.
I think everybody's confused. The problem is that these lawyers, I'm trying to figure out, is that the lawyers who are defending these cases, they themselves don't understand it. They're
uh-huh.
not trained in psychology. They don't understand psychological manipulation. They don't recognize it when they see it. And they're treating this as if this could have been a real child, not realizing how insane that is. Not realizing, not acknowledging that the chances of this ever being a real child is like 0% because that's just not realistic. A real 13-year-old is just developmentally not there. A real 13-year-old is figuring out their identity. They're not concerned about finding a sexual partner and being sexually pleased. They're not there yet. Women, females are not even, we're not even at our sexual peak until our 30s. So to say that a 13-year-old girl is, wants to sexually explore and with a random stranger, that's a really wild fantasy these people have come up with. And to say that other people present, a danger to children, I'm sorry, you're the one creating wild sexual fantasies about 13-year-old girls being desperate for sex. I think you're the one that presents a true risk to real children. So let's talk about taboo fantasies. So check out this ad. We showed this in
This
our last.
episode, yes.
Yes, we showed this in our last presentation as well. And this one says, "Here to please your wildest taboo fantasies." Notice the word taboo. "Me and my girls will blow your mind." Interesting. They chose the word blow on there, right?
First, the word fantasies.
Fantasies, taboo, naughty, dirty mom, age 40. Which one's supposed to be the mom?
Um,
The one in the middle? The one of the ones on the side? Like, by looking at that, can anybody tell which one's supposed to be the mom?
I never thought about that, but yeah, no, I assume it's the one in the middle because she's like, I don't know, the red lingerie gives like leader vibes.
That's kind of what I thought. It's like that's what they're trying to make it look like the one in the red because she's wearing, a different color, and I guess her top is a little skimpier. Uh, but that very much just looks like she's the one playing the mom role, right?
Exactly.
Doesn't look like a real mom with, and those girls don't look like teen girls. Like, why would a real mom, be putting actual minor girls on there, advertising them to strangers? Um, really showing strangers, hey, I'm sex trafficking my minor girls. No, this is a pornographic fantasy scenario. Like,
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there's no reason why anybody would look at this and think, oh, yes, these are minors. I'm definitely going to reach out to them and try to hook up with these minor girls because this mom just, is desperate to get random men to come, have a foursome with them or whatever it was she was trying to do. It was crazy.
So we noticed the words in here, and I didn't just plant those words in the side. They're actually in this ad, and if you squint your eyes real well, you can see it. Taboo fantasies. So put yourself in the shoes of that person reading this, right? So obviously they went to an adult, looks like an escort website. They see this and they go, well, I mean, this is an adult place for adult encounters, so I guess this makes sense. I mean, if you were going to have a taboo fantasy, where else would you go, right? And they read the ad after being told of a different age. They switch, if you will, which is actually an anchor bias. They read the words taboo fantasy, or they reminded by the word taboo fantasy, and a light bulb hits off in their head. Oh, this is not this is somebody acting out a thing. This is their thing. This is not my thing. This is their thing. Okay, that makes sense. But hey, threesome.
You know what's really funny about this ad, too?
What?
Is that when they pretend to be like, oh, we're minors, we were acting like minors, so they should have known we were minors, is they will misspell words, because they're supposed to be pretending like they're minors. But in this case, it's supposed to be the mom who's advertising her supposed, minor girls. And they misspelled, it's supposed to say here to please, but it says here to peace. And then fantasies is misspelled. And then you see the, capital M in mom, lowercase o. And so it's funny because they use the same, this is supposed to be an adult writing this, not a kid, but they still use the same tactic. You know what this really makes me think of? Um, I remember, like, when I used to watch the Dr. Phil show, he pointed out whenever he would do the shows on scammers, scamming like elderly, vulnerable people.
Yeah.
And he said this stuff is so obvious that it's someone who doesn't even speak proper English, and look at the misspellings, like they will always use misspellings. And he said, and I wonder, why do you have so many misspellings? Because um, you have spell check, so why would you just not write proper English? And they said, because that is very intentional, because that is how they pick out the vulnerable ones. Someone who is willing to overlook those things, those are the ones that are easy to fool. And so it's very interesting that law enforcement is using that exact same tactic. They will intentionally misspell words because their targets are those who are so vulnerable that they will overlook those misspellings, um, because they just want to talk to someone. That's who they want. That's who their target is. Their target is not anybody who presents an actual danger to minors. Their target is who is vulnerable enough that we can manipulate and um, and use to create these fake cases, because all we care about is the numbers. We don't care about protecting real children. We know the real predators are out there looking for the minors and the places minors are. Our focus is we need to create the numbers so that we can keep this money coming, and at the same time we enjoy, causing harm to others. That's all we care about. Forget about saving and protecting the children. As long as we can fool the public with it, that's all we care about, right?
It's it's interesting that we see these start to kind of trend on escort websites because it's a different crime altogether, legally speaking, and morally speaking, it's a different crime. Um, but they do it terribly. But they are targeting men who don't have anybody. They're targeting men who don't go anywhere, don't do anything. They're lonely, and they're willing to give currency for some level of affection or happiness.
Yeah, they are deliberately
Yep,
targeting the vulnerable, which is exactly what real predators do.
that's exactly what they do.
Hmm.
All right, on to the next one. This is one that I want to talk about, and I'll talk about in volume. Is it actually entrapment? Technically, no. For it to be entrapment, the defendant must plead guilty to the crime and argue the crime occurred due to police unlawful cohesion. For the crime to be committed, the defendant must believe they are talking to a minor. Courts genuinely do not know what to do. We can see evidence of this with prolonged trial dates and prolonged indictments. So, guys, I want you to think about anything with our justice system as an assembly line, right? I'll pick apart a DUI. I'll do that. So, the officer has charged you with DUI. He witnessed you on a roadway or in a car with the ability to drive the vehicle. One of those two. So you're driving down the road. You swerve. An officer sees it. He has developed probable cause because there's a failure to maintain lane, right? So now he has probable cause to pull you over. He comes up to the passenger side. He asks for your information, quick conversation. He suspects that you may be impaired, right? So then the officer has to take you out of the vehicle and conduct a standard field sobriety test. During that test, he's looking for clues of impairment. All this is a process to gather more and more probable cause. So the officer then makes the determination that this person is impaired, makes the arrest, goes to jail. And a lot of states have different intoximeters or machines you blow on when you go into jail to determine your blood alcohol level. Then you blow on that, and the reading is what it is. But all these things happened because probable cause was established. So courts know how to work with that. They know how to prove the crime. They know how to prove every element of it, right? With these cases, they can't, or they have a harder time doing that because they manufactured a case, which legally they're not supposed to do. And now they have to prove that you believe this was a minor. Now they have to prove you were predisposed. That's a lot. That's a lot. So we're seeing a lot of stuttering when it comes to getting these cases actually prosecuted and then convicted. So much like an assembly line.
Well, and the only way they can win these cases again is by, hiding important evidence, misrepresenting the facts, and just straight out lying. And every element of these cases that is needed to prove guilt, it's 100% created by them. Like when you say they have to prove that the man believed this to be a minor, well, realistically you cannot prove what anybody believed, and they're just using something so simple as, well, you were told this was a minor and you responded to that. But actually, yes, 100% the man would know that he was told this was a minor. That does not mean he believed this to be a minor, or, and it's not possible for him to have known this was a minor. What he knew is that this was somebody that was playing some kind of game with him, because this is not a realistic situation. And what he knew was that he had to show up to observe this person in person, observe their physical appearance, and then observe their behavior in person, in order for him to truly know or truly believe whether this really was a minor, and if indeed it was a minor who was looking for random adult strangers online to meet for sex.
Right.
It, so they
They
can't prove it, but they keep saying that they are proving it. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, she brought it up. The step that's missed, if you didn't actually believe the decoy was an actual minor, but an individual acting out a role play scenario, then you did not, in fact, commit a crime. So the burden of proof to all elements of crimes must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's where the problem is, because they keep saying, because you were told this was a minor, then you knew or you believed this to be a minor, or because you acknowledged it. But the fact is, the men are simply acknowledging that this person is wanting to pretend to be a minor. Um, but at the same time, even if he did believe this could be a minor, which the law does not say that he believed it could be a minor, the law says that the way it's written shows that he had to have believed with certainty that this was a minor. And the problem is that these defense attorneys are not presenting everything. They're just saying, oh, he was told, check off that box. Okay, he was told. Oh, he says right here, this, you're too young, I may get in trouble. Are you the police? Okay, guilty mind, he's guilty. No, if he brought up, how do I know that you're not police? That right there is evidence that shows he doubted that this was a real minor.
right.
And just because, even if he believed, even what percentage did he believe that this was a minor versus the percentage that he believed that it was not a minor and that it was something different? Like, this could be police, this could be a sting operation, even though it makes no sense, because those sting operations are supposed to be about protecting minors from online predators. And this situation certainly does not apply to that. So, anybody with a normal mind wouldn't be able to make sense of that. Um, they may believe this could be a scammer trying to, set me up so that they can then extort money from me. This might be a catfisher. This might be someone trying to set me up to assault me and rob me. This might be somebody trying to set me up to rape me. It could be someone, maybe a gay man rapist who wants to lure younger men, to sexually assault them. Or,
Or it could be that 40-year-old woman in the ad
mhm.
that's has some funky taboo fetishes,
Yeah,
but
and
I don't know. I want to go find out for myself.
it could be a much older woman, yeah, playing that role because she wants to catch a younger man. Or, there's a really slight chance that it could be an actual, some kind of psychopathic 13-year-old. That would be, we've never seen them in this world before, but I guess anything's possible. Some kind of psychopathic 13-year-old that is just that desperate for sex with any random stranger she could find, and she's just going to go on there, not going to give up until she finds a random stranger that will agree to come have sex with her. But at that point, that's that makes that person dangerous. It doesn't matter how old they are, because what they're doing is dangerous, not even to themselves, but to the other people. So it's like it's going to create confusion no matter what. And what about the fact that, we're supposed to treat this like this was a real teenager because, oh, this could have been a real child. Okay, well, this child solicited a random stranger to commit a crime of violence. They are soliciting men to commit statutory rape. Please come do these dirty things with me and please tell me all about it. That's soliciting someone to commit a crime of violence. Had they solicited anybody to commit any other crime of violence, I want you to come, unalive this other person for me, or I want you to come, use a weapon and go to this bank and take money for me. At that point, age does not matter. You solicited someone to commit a crime, you are guilty. So why does it not apply when these psychopathic minors are soliciting random adult strangers to commit statutory rape? None of it adds up. None of it makes sense.
No, and I'll add this: they don't use ugly decoys.
Oh no, they're all very attractive. Even some of it's AI though.
So, you get these young men that are just looking for a casual encounter for the night. They're depressed, they're lonely, they want some dopamines, their brain screaming in their head, I want happiness, give me sex, you know? So they go online, they go to their adult place to find another adult, and they see this 10 out of 10 smoke show. They read this description that reads like a role play scenario. They do the anchor bias bait switch, and then they get outraged that these young men showed up. It doesn't make any sense. This is straight up entrapment. You can't do this. You've never been able to do this.
Yeah, and it's straight up projection.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not realistic. They're just bringing to life their own sexual fantasies about, 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds being desperate for sex. And it's just one of those like, oh, what if we create this mythical creature and this 13-year-old girl, like she's got the same maturity, sexual maturity and sexual appetite as me, the 30-year-old man. Ooh, what if that were real? Ooh, let's go out there and bring that to life, and let's go push that onto other men and make them excited, right? But first we want them sexually excited, and then we put in, oh, by the way, this is a 13-year-old. Well, I'm pretty sure that in the minds of those men to begin with, they already had in the what they have imagined in their head is an adult woman, because that's what they went looking for. The fact that they put a 13-year-old, they said 13, I don't think that changes that image. um, but in the decoy's mind, we know that's what they're imagining because they're the ones that created that fantasy, right? So they are the sickos.
right. All right, on the next slide.
Now, what's the difference? The defendant joined an adult platform expecting to interact with adults. The decoy presented as an adult, then suddenly misrepresented themselves. It's like a worshiper expecting grape juice at communion, relying on the familiarity, only for the police to swap the grape juice for wine and arrest him later for DUI. The officers didn't prevent a crime, they manufactured it by exploiting that trust. This wasn't enforcement, it's entrapment. However, it's not that simple. DUI is a state of impairment regardless of the willingness to partake in a substance while operating a vehicle. In these cases, these people aren't drinking wine, nor do they believe it's wine.
I think that's a great analogy, and that is the core of our argument on why this is fraud.
Well, it's fraud because, yeah, they're fooling the public and using tax money for, to supposedly protect children from online predators. And that's not at all what they're doing. Zero children are saved or protected with these online sting operations. I think we can prove that too. Actually, I
Oh
know
yeah.
we can.
If you catch us on next episode, Stinging Back, it may be a few episodes from then, but we're going to start looking at some actual sting pictures. I mean, the ones presented in this RICO presentation are from actual stings, but I'm going to start showing off some more that are more recent. that just show what kind of people do these types of things.
Well, and the simple fact that they create images of their mythical creatures, these minors who are desperate for sex with random strangers, I mean, that's insane. Let that sink in. Like the extent they take this to. Not only are they sexualizing minors, creating these wild fantasies about minors wanting sex so desperately that they go looking for any adult stranger online they could find for this. They're actually creating the images of these mythical creatures too. And like Dee said, we'll share some of those with you in the next episode. You've seen some of them here. Um, but again, what does that tell us about them? They are the ones with these wild fantasies about children, being sexual freaks, basically, is what they're making them out to be. And that's very disturbing. And nobody's putting the focus on that. This is going right over the heads of those judges, of those lawyers. And it blows my mind to watch them, make these arguments in court, treating this like, oh, yes, but of course this could have been a real child because that's just what children do. Children sometimes get desperate for sex, and you adult men should know that, and you should just know that you're supposed to say no to them. It's wild. It's crazy. Like, I don't know what to do to make these people snap out of it and realize the stupidity of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny. I've actually had been in conversation with an actual person who hunts these individuals who are out here exploiting children. And I asked them just a really simple question. I asked them, "What apps are you using to do these things?" And to my amaze and my surprise, he stated all apps that you would reasonably expect to find children. So, then I'm curious. I'm like, well, it seems like you're doing it the right way, but what's your motivation? Because I always get concerned about projection. And he gives me this story about when he was, locked up or incarcerated, and he then proceeded to have some children that were exploited during his incarceration, and it made him very passionate in getting these people off the internet, getting them off the streets, putting them in prison. Um, and for me, when I hear that, it comes from a place of passion. It comes from somewhere good, where, hey, my family has been hurt in such a way that it's going to be hard to recover from. Now, I want to go out and I want to make it so other people's families don't get hurt in such a way where this could happen to them. And it's quite literally the only case I have actually talked to one of these so-called pedo hunters that actually do it right and do it right with a purpose.
I have yet to see any of those because they used to all say that until we started exposing them. And then they switched to, oh, well, there are, children on adult dating sites, and started justifying that. So I'm curious. I'm curious to really take a deep dive into what you just said and see if it is true that that is what they're really doing. Because over and over again, we have seen uh, that they just lie like it's second nature to them. And a lot of them are, I mean, it might just be that they have mental problems, they're delusional. Or I was going to say earlier, I want to, what do you think if we made a bet on, if we were to drug test these law enforcement officers and these decoys, these vigilantes who conduct these sting operations, what percentage of them do you think are probably abusing drugs? Because my guess is it's going to be a pretty high percentage.
We would definitely find a percentage. But think about this: what if they didn't go to adult websites to do these things? Would we even have an argument to make?
If they did not go to adult websites? No,
Right.
if they were posing as children to begin with, if they were creating profiles and ads as minors, no, of course there would be no argument to be made because it would be very clear that anybody that contacted them did so with the intent of contacting a minor. And that's all it takes. Create the profile of a minor and behave like an actual minor.
Right.
Do not use sex to entice or groom men. Do not push yourself sexually onto anybody, not men, not women, not anybody. and then it's legit. But I have yet to come across any of these online sting operations where they do that. All of them, they present themselves as someone who's looking for a man to hook up with. They demand a sexual conversation, and yeah, and by the way, I'm 13, and look at me, I'm so turned on by it. Please come over. When are you coming? Please hurry up. I'm going to go shower now. And, here's a picture of my sexy legs in the shower waiting for you. Where are you? Why aren't you here yet?
Right.
That's someone role playing
Let me
or a
ask,
catfisher.
because we do a lot with Cage. Do you ever hear somebody's story start off with, "Well, I was playing Roblox and..."
Right. Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah, why is that? Because it's easier to get on Roblox, create an account and just do that. To go on these adult websites, you have to verify yourself. You have to send pictures to admins. You have to ensure that you are, in fact, an adult. And
Yeah,
all that work just to do it the wrong way.
I've heard from real people, that are on gaming sites that, where they said they've seen it, where, an adult is, being inappropriate with minors on there. And then the rest of the group will point out, like, hey, like, chill out, leave them alone. That's a minor. They kind of look out for each other. And yeah, they said that's exactly where this is happening, but that's not where anybody's looking for these predators. It's like the community itself has to look out for the minors or those that are on there pretending to be minors or whatever. But it's certainly not police, and it's certainly not these vigilante groups that are doing that.
I've got to split, get my son to work on time.
Okay. Well, I'll
So
get
I'll catch you guys later.
All right.
Okay, Em. Thank you for joining us, Em. Em has to go. Dee and I are going to finish this presentation now.
All right, moving on. Why is this trend ultimately dangerous? It creates false positives. It creates a violation of the evidence finding process, which sets a precedent on police tactics. That is the most dangerous one. It's a misuse of the sex offender registration. That's a privilege, and it could very much be taken by the wrong person going on that list and something bad happening to them, especially if they don't deserve to be on that list. It takes resources from actual victims. 99% of the tips from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children go uninvestigated. I find that really interesting. It's like they're on purpose not doing their job. Meanwhile, ICAC rakes in $40 million of taxpayer fund to make fake cases.
Well, and even worse, they have normalized the sexualization of children and, the creation of wild fantasies about children being desperate for sex and them, using these online sting operations as an excuse to bring to life their own sexual fantasies about minors. That's why it's dangerous, because it's very easy for those real predators to hide behind being a hero who's supposedly, trying to save and protect children from dangerous online predators. I mean, that's a perfect cover up, and it works very well because people keep buying into it. That's why it's incredibly dangerous. How many real predators are hiding behind those roles, and how many have already been uncovered hiding behind in those roles?
Well, what I find interesting is the correlation of C-SPAM and these stings. The stings lack any type of cheese pizza and thing like that. While they can go out and they can make these possession of CP cases all day, every day. It's pretty easy for them.
Yeah, to clarify, when we say cheese pizza, we're talking about CP. We figured out that's what law enforcement uses. That's where, the pizza gate and, the symbol of pizza for child, predators, pedophiles, comes from. It came from CP, cheese pizza. And
Yeah.
so that's the code they use. And we've learned a lot, and just uncovering the truths about, these sting operations, just investigating and talking to people across the country that have, had these experiences. it's amazing how much you can learn just from talking from the real victims of these online sting operations. We've done our research. We've been at this for years. So anybody who wants to challenge us and tell us that we're wrong, we are willing to listen to you. And um, we want to hear your explanation.
Yeah, no, I'm full on it. I mean, I'll Charlie Kirk it. If you can change my mind, change my mind. I
Yeah,
look forward to it, and I'm excited to hear you try to change my mind.
yeah.
Uh,
Show us, because what we've seen is otherwise is what we're presenting, right? And we've got members in 22 different states, and like I said, we've been researching this for years, and we see the same patterns over and over again, and this is how we know what we know. We're not just speaking, from out of nowhere coming up with these ideas. This we can back up what we're talking about. And the problem is that the other side is not willing to have a, you know, honest, open debate with us about it, because all they're going to say is, well, he was told that this was a minor and he showed up, and that's all they focus on. And there's something really wrong with that, because that's exactly what the problem is, that he was told this was a minor, um, while being presented with information that contradicted that this was a minor, right? At the very least, he could only think, there might be a slight chance that it could be a minor, but it's also very likely that it is not a minor and that is just someone pretending to be a minor, especially when they presented themselves as an adult to begin with. And it's very interesting how they don't focus on, well, he was told this was an adult, and then later he was told this was a minor.
mhm. And I'll go ahead and get back on the misuse of the sex offender registration list. Um, the courts know that this is an Eighth Amendment violation, and they openly ignore it. But let's say a case occurs where somebody appeals their case, and because their address is, well, doxed on the registry, um, they're in danger. They're in danger from any type of vigilante group, someone trying to project, somebody who's got just a bad memory of one of their children being exploited. They're emotionally charged and willing to take matters into their own hands as they see it through their point of view, because that's what they've been told. We can't expect civilians to come out here and respect the Constitution, respect the 14th, the 5th, the 6th. And by the way, for those who don't know, that's your due process and you're innocent until proven guilty. If law enforcement don't do it, we've gotten to this point in time where we have to ask the quiet question out loud. And that's, if the law enforcement won't uphold the Constitution and the government don't uphold the Constitution, well, who does?
Yeah, they're the role models, and yeah, they opened this up to, those who are mentally unstable, who are looking for any excuse they can find to justify violence. And that's exactly, what they have done with thousands of men that they've used to create these fake cases against.
I don't understand where police come from with this point of view that they're protecting children.
It's ego. Big
It's
egos make people dumb.
I can only reach from a place of ego. I think that's what it might be. It might be somebody trying to get a quick rank up to detective or something, or simply just trying to make a federal grant that they've been working on for years. And because they've been working on it for years, they're desperate to build it up every year so that, the next generation of rookie guys can, enjoy that overtime grant. That's
And I think some of them probably, have mental health issues. They're delusional. And like I said earlier, I'm willing to bet a high percentage of them um, are or probably have in the past abused drugs. I'm willing to bet that. I think that, there's clearly something mentally wrong with them. And this to them is a high. So it shows that they have that personality of that, they're chasing a high. So that's a good indication that, these are also people who have or are or will abuse drugs. This is an addiction to them. That's why they do it. It has 0% to do with trying to save or protect children, um, because this is not how real cases happen. And when you point that out to them, They don't care. They don't care. All they care about is the high they get from doing this to other people and from causing harm to others, and the high they get from being able to justify the harm they cause to others. That's what they care about.
Is it's a high for them because this is not how real cases actually happen, right? And a lot of these cases, women get charged too, and I'm talking about real cases of human trafficking or exploitation. Women are in it too, but you're only seeing men being arrested because they keep going to manipulate men. It's easy to do.
Well, that's another big red flag that it's like if you were to look at the percentage of men and the percentage of women who have actually committed the real, hands-on child exploitation, child sexual abuse crimes, these sting operations are not representative of, or they don't represent that at all.
No,
There's thousands and thousands of men who have been convicted of this, and hardly any women, maybe 1%, if even that. It's probably under 1%, and that's not representative of, the real percentage of female sexual predators that have sexually abused minors. And then also, if you compare the percentage of how many men have been arrested from these sting operations, um, it's really high compared to the real percentage of how many real sexual predators there are and real pedophiles there are.
I just wonder, like, we've shown y'all examples of real stain pictures. How many actual predators do y'all think they found, or do you think those are men that were entrapped or people manipulated? Because the key of the problem is we're not addressing the problem. We're basically creating a problem to sell a solution.
Well, they're promoting and encouraging the sexual abuse of children.
Yeah.
That's
And,
the reality of it. And
you
people
know,
in the public is being used to support, defend, and enable that behavior.
well, again, that's part of the RICO is it becomes a conspiracy, right? So part of the conspiracy is creating the outrage. You have to create the outrage. That way, the federal government looks at it and goes, "Oh my goodness, they're doing good work over there," and then they pay them. And it's not hard to do. I mean, I don't understand like why they've been allowed to do this for as long as they have been.
Because it's so easy for them to get away with it.
Well,
They
you know,
haven't been
uh,
stopped.
I think in the defense of the men who have to fight this battle, you're walking uphill, bud. I mean, you are fighting a hard fight. And the reason why it is because you're not set for a fair trial. They've already put your name and face out there. They're already trying to take all your money and financially abuse you. They're trying to make it so you cannot be employed. They want you to take a plea deal because it's easy for them. If you've watched any of these slides with these sting pictures, the first thought in your head is this is lazy police work.
Yep. And, they cannot cover up the truth forever. The truth eventually gets exposed. They get exposed for who they truly are, what their true intentions were, and all of that. It's just a matter of time. And mark my words, they're going to start pretending like, oh, I just didn't know. Nobody ever told us that. Why didn't you say so before? No, you're making that up because you would have said it sooner. Same thing we see as always, when something big like that happens and it gets uncovered and it's, outrageous and people are outraged that this happened for so long and how much of it happened. And they cannot understand or wrap their heads around how could this have been going on for this long. And then, people will start saying, oh, well, no, it's not true because they would have said it sooner. And we've been saying it for years. We've been pointing it out. It's going ignored. We're being told it's not real, it's not true, we're delusional, we're making this up, we're in denial. I mean, it's out there. So don't you dare come and say later that you just didn't know because a lot of these lawyers and judges, they do know. They're ignoring it because it's inconvenient for them.
It's not fashionable.
Yep. It's about what serves them. So that wraps up today's episode of Stinging Back about RICO and the unrealistic scenarios that are presented in these online sting operations that have absolutely nothing to do with trying to save any children from any real sexual abuse or protect children from any real threats of, online child exploitation that could then lead to sexual abuse. D presented on this and presented several scenarios. D, anything else you want to add or say before we go?
Yes. These slides over time are probably going to get more and more popular because I think more and more men are going to find themselves victims of these types of stings. Listen, this is a blueprint. I want y'all to take this with stride. Get with your lawyer, make the argument that we're making here, and just fight back. We're making it entirely too easy for people to radicalize our government and take advantage of good people. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of cases that we have read. So, y'all do yourselves a favor. Get educated in the Constitution, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 8th, and the 14th. Those are all really good ones. And see how they apply and fight back.
Thank you for listening to Stinging Back. Stay tuned. We have new episodes coming up. This is Stinging Back.